Hey, this is Kirk.
And this is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. And we have with us today two football legends as players and coaches. I love these dudes. These are my boys. We got Coach Keith Powell and Coach Jeremiah Davis. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Russ. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So for those that don't know, well, Jeremiah is a veteran of the show. He's been a part of some of our biggest shows, talking about college and then in high school football. Jeremiah has also been a head coach at a number of places, and we'll let him talk about what he's doing now. But we also have Keith Powell, who I played against in high school. He's a crabber. All right, he's been head coach at Wakefield. And Coach, why don't you bring us up to let people know what you're doing now?
So I'm at T.C. Williams, where Alexandria High School, now, formerly known as T.C. Williams, coaching defensive lineman. I was at Mount Vernon last year. Help me out. Mount Vernon.
Hayfield.
Yeah, so I was at Hayfield for 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With Eric Henderson, so he made it really comfortable for me there, coaching JV, And then I was at Edison for 2 with my son Scott Woodleaf, that grew up, Kickerton High School.
Yeah, he's at Heritage.
Yeah, he was the head coach at Edison. We were together there for 1 year. And then before that, I was the head coach at Wakefield for 6 years. And then before that, I was offensive coordinator at TC for 4 years. And before that, I was at Wakefield for 6 years as a coordinator. So that's my 26 years experience.
Wow. And for those that don't know, Keith was an outstanding high school football player. I think I ran over him a couple of times, but he might have.
I was okay.
If I didn't run you over, and I may not have, I don't, and I hope I at least blocked you a couple of times playing fullback. I don't know, but as excellent high school and college football player, tell us a little bit about Hampton, what you did at Hampton, and then what some of the great success you had there in college.
So I was part of 3 state championship team. We won 2, lost 1. D. Rocky Croom was a quarterback, Sherwood Jones linebacker, Will Jeter tight end, Marvin Dixon. We were stacked.
Y'all were.
Yeah, we had a great 1985. We were pretty much untouchable because we had lost in 84. We were really young. Leslie Bailey, Linwood Lumpkins, my brother, they kind of let us there, but we had no business being there. We only had like 6 seniors that started. So then
that's the team that lost to T.C. Williams, right?
Lost to T.C. They were a great team too. We didn't realize until after the game. Even Coach Smith had to kind of say, they got it.
Yeah, they were nationally ranked that year. I think their quarterback went to Wake, and they had a bunch. They had some dogs that year.
They had some dudes. Yeah, they were 3rd in the country. So we lose to them. We come back to get revenge. We come back the next year and look for them in my senior year, and somebody beat them. We ended up playing Salem, and we beat them 14-0. Nice cold December day. And then so from there, I go on to Glenville State for 2 years, and then I transferred back home to Norfolk State where I met my wife. So that was, pretty amazing. That was great. Finished up there and then moved up here in Northern Virginia, and moved to Maryland, started working in Northern Virginia. I couldn't afford it. I still can't afford to live in Northern Virginia.
Neither can I after 31 years.
Neither can I. All right, well, thanks, Coach Powell. And now, Jeremiah, you've been on the show before. And just so you guys know, I probably should have said this up front. They're going to help us give a preview of some Northern Virginia high school football because they're experts at this. And Jeremiah actually played high school football and has coached here for years. But Jeremiah, Annandale legend. Coach, tell us a little bit about your background being an Annandale star.
Yeah, definitely glad to be on the show. Thank you guys for having us again. And Jeremiah Davis played at Annandale High School, home of the Adams, Actiondale as I like to call it. Graduated from there and went to Penn State University. Sky's blue and white for a reason because God is a Penn State fan. Yes, right. After playing at Penn State and meeting my wife there, we came back to the Northern Virginia area where we both taught at Annandale High School. I coached for a number of years. I actually left and went to Arlington That's where my path crossed with Coach Powell. We worked at Wakefield High School together when he was the head football coach there. Tried to bring me over. I was still fighting it. But he dropped a nugget on me, man. He said, learn while you can, young man, and continue to grow as a coach. And I was like, I'm ready to have my own program. He said, you too young, grasshopper, slow down. You want these gray hairs. And I didn't want to listen to him. So 2 years after that, man, after he told me, and we were in a coaches meeting together, he said, listen, I hear how you talking, young fella, man. You ready to do this thing. And probably, and not even 3 or 4 months after that, I interviewed at West Potomac for the head football coaching job. I coached there for 2 years. Then I went on to Herndon High School, coached there for a number of years. My wife went into the administrative role at Westfield High School. And so I stepped down from being a head coach, was defensive coordinator at Westfield High School for the past couple of years. And now I'm an administrator at Stone Middle School in Centerville, Virginia. And we actually live out here in Leesburg, so I'm coaching at Loudoun County High School. It's great to be a county captain.
The captain.
I hear you. LC. LC. Well,
let me do a real quick plug for a couple things. For the Crabbers, we've got episode 44, might be the most extensive interview that Mike Smith has ever done. It's over an hour, and we go way back. A lot of people don't realize that Coach Smith was going to go to medical school and started at VCU and then went down and was offered the Pembroke job in like 70. So all you Crabbers out there that are friends with Keith, check out episode 44. And when we first got started, and we've learned a lot, Jeremiah has an excellent episode. It's episode number 2, where we do a profile, and it's in depth on Jeremiah. There's some really cool stuff in there, like Jeremiah, you took a recruiting trip with Ben Roethlisberger to UVA. That's a little nugget that we'll leave for there. And
no, the best story was Jeremiah and I winning the father-son football joint when he was in middle school. That, to me, was what inspired him to greatness. Did
he play father and you play son?
He was taller than me, bro. Yeah,
I was taller. I was.
Everybody thought he was your dad.
What Jeremiah was inspired by is I showed him some of my old high school film against Hampton and me running over Powell, Sherwood Jones, just running through those guys. I remember I broke through the line, and I don't know who was safe. They had to run him over. But so that inspired Jeremiah, and and on to where we are now. So anyway, thank you guys again. Let's join us. What we're going to do is we're going to cover Fairfax, and we talked a little bit offline. This is fair. It's not. I'm calling it Fairfax because that's the majority, but we have the teams from from Alexandria, Falls Church, and Arlington.
Right.
So we're going to cover those, and we talked about a little bit loud, but we won't do loud. Let's save loud because that's mostly Division 5. So we'll do that on another episode. But let's go ahead on into Northern Region football, and let's talk about a couple of the let's pick a district. Let's start with Jeremiah, your old district that you just left with Westfield, because to me that has been one of the stronger districts over the last 20-25 years. When you look at the success, being actually go 30 years with Madison, Centerville, Westfield. Winning state championship. Chantilly got one in the 90s. Oakton had a great run. Top to bottom. Even South Lakes has had a good run over the last 7-8 years. So let's talk about that district. Are they still called? Do they have district titles, or are they just
Concord?
1, 2, 3.
It was Concord, but Region 6D. 6D.
Okay.
That one.
6D. Okay.
It was the Concord district, and so
cool.
Tough district always. So you're talking about, like you said, Centerville, Chantilly, Westfield High School, Madison, Oakton. And now they added in South Lakes is coming to there. So, you have some definitely state champions and state runner-ups, even with Madison with the Warhawks last year. Now they pounded the ball, and they had a good thing going on in Northern Virginia that met how Southern Virginia plays football. And we saw that result. You guys were there. live and saw that. And I think that really tells of the state of football in Virginia and what we're doing in Northern Virginia. You know, I think guys, and now I say this kind of as a parent, and you step back and you see things. In Northern Virginia, we got a lot going on. We got a lot of things to do. Kids got a lot of options. And being from Portsmouth, Virginia, from the Tidewater area, just recently coming back from there this summer. Not saying that kids don't, but it's not Northern Virginia. And so when they play a little differently. They play for a different reason. They play with a different cause, and they're coached like that. I say all that to say that coming back this year, Centerville has got to be at the top of the district. They got the best player, I believe, in the area, in Isaiah Ragland, running back from Centerville High School. I think he was a Region Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and he's that guy. I mean, he brings his own blocker. And they run downhill. Fortunately, I coached with Coach Shields. He was the defensive coordinator at Westfield when I first got there, and he has a good program that's going on. You know, Westfield's going to always be in the mix. They got great coaching. They got like 25 coaches on staff. They're going to prepare you. There's going to be 8 video angles. They're going to get every game from 1997 to now to coach it up and everything. So they're doing a great job coaching. Jason Hescock is over at South Lakes, and he was on my staff at West Potomac. Knows what he does. Does a great job building with those guys. And Tilly's had some guys over the years, and he has option football, and they'll get downhill on you. And then what they're doing over at Oakton is awesome. And keeping those guys coming back. And again, it's something to be said, and I think Coach Powell's going to touch on it. Being able to field 3 levels of team is now an accomplishment in Northern Virginia. It is. That's an accomplishment, meaning that you're doing something well, communicating with the community. And so, you know, what he's doing over at Oakton, he's building a program. And sometimes that doesn't show up in wins and losses. I've been at a program before, and we're 2-8, but guys are coming back out. Guys are still finding a way to play in college. And you know, and so he's doing a great job with that, you know, over there.
Yeah. You know, I'll accentuate what you were saying, is that lacrosse is really big up here, and they've got some excellent athletes. I mean, quick. I mean, if you're a big, tall dude, you better be a good athlete, because they've got a lot of quick body twitch, you know, athletes in lacrosse. I remember, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was a kid out here in Loudoun County that looked like a Power 5 recruit. He skipped his senior year because he had a full ride to Maryland. And that goes right along with what you're saying. You know, these kids have a lot of different options. We've got rowing up here, a lot of ice hockey, you know, a lot of different things going on. And, you know, like you said, us growing up in Hampton, no pro sports team. I mean, you're Friday night, Saturday, you're at the front of the paper. Here, you got to win like a state championship to get, you know, on the Washington Post. But so you think that Centerville is the class of that district? How about all of Northern Virginia? Do you think Centerville may be the best team in Division VI Northern Virginia?
Listen, when it came down to it at the end of last season, it was who's going to play better smash mouth football. And, you know, South County took over, you know, the reins from where Westfield was, is what they were doing. And again, it got about guys. They had guys. But when it came down to, you know, late November, early December, and I've been a part of them Thanksgiving practices. Can you get downhill? Is that guard pulling? And then you got a running back that can bring his own blocker. And they do. And both teams did at that time. Now they had to match up defensively, and I think that, you know, Centerville is going to be that cream of the crop coming in.
You know, we're going to let Coach Powell talk a little bit about it. Is it still called the Patriot District?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where the Alexandria City and Lake Braddock, Robinson, all of them are.
Yeah.
South County. Okay, so I'll let you talk about that, but I just want to touch on one point about 757 football. Is they have a lot more things to do with people, but down there, people care about it in a whole different level. And I'll give you a very basic example. There are chat boards and stuff down. We all have seen the Hampton Roads High School football page on Facebook. It's not a day that don't go by. Somebody's talking about Oscar Smith, Phoebus, our boy Randy Pearson. You know, his son played for Oscar Smith, and Randy got something to say every day. But my point is, like up down there, they're talking about it, they think about it, they care about it. Like that's one of the things. That's what we do down there a lot of times, and talking smack is a part of that, you know. And up here, when people try to do that same thing on the message board, they'll block you out, or they won't let you join, and they'll be, hey, let's be nice to each other. And so when you got those dynamics as well, I mean, I see it in that passion. So I'm saying the passion of the players, but the families and the parents. I will never forget. I tell people up here, you know, soccer, it takes a lot of time, and you have a lot of kids playing there, and everybody's polite, and you can't say but so much. But I've seen football, especially back home, where the mother will tell a 8-year-old playing tackle football, get your butt up, you know, hit him, take his head off. Where, you know, it's vicious, man. So, you know, if your coach don't ring you out, your mom might do it when you get home. But so that, look, so we all had those 757 ties, but we're all up here in Northern Virginia. So let's talk about what I think has traditionally been the second best region, district in the Northern region. Jeremiah played in that region and coached in it. And Keith, you coached in it for years. So let's talk about. I think, and South County won a state championship 3 years ago during that COVID season, and we've had their players on the show. I coach the current quarterback they have there. But tell us a little bit about that district, Keith.
So you know that district is a district where you know you're gonna have to bring it. You know, if you walking in on a Friday night and just think you better and you don't have to show up, you're gonna lose. You know, so like where Jeremiah used to play, when I first started coaching, nobody wanted to play anything. You just didn't. You know, we had a running back that went all the way to NFL, one of his teammates named Tony Hunt and Penn State.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we played them when Tony was there, and they smashed us. I mean, like, I was really getting a piece of Northern Virginia football where I learned that these guys in Northern Virginia, they don't make a whole lot of mistakes. And that's how they, you know, close the gap.
Yeah.
But not having Percy Harvey, not having a Tyrod Taylor, they're not going to beat themselves. So, yeah. And so I like that. You know, it's a little easier to coach a kid that has a little less talent, but a little more willing to, you know, do what you ask them to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would probably
and speak. Oh, go ahead.
I would probably say the biggest difference, though, with the Tidewater kids having, you know, being from there, doing camp down there every year, the Hampton Rose Youth Foundation, the sense of urgency that the Tidewater kids play with is so different.
Right.
So here's a sample. My son, I transferred him out of Edison High School, and he spent his senior year with Daz Newsom. That's with Chicago Bears now. So he called me after practice. I said, "How was the first day?" He said, "It was good." He said, "But you know, I took one play off, and I gave up a sack today." He was like, Coach Mitchell was like going off, and I was like, "Hey, you didn't know you couldn't take a play off down there?" He was like, "No, these dudes are like, take your spot. You know, everybody down here hungry." And so there's a difference in culture. And I said, "How did you get to practice? Granddaddy dropped you off, didn't he?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What about your teammates?" He said, "Yeah, they were walking there. Some of them were walking to practice." You know, so that type of, you know, sense of, you know, hungriness is what probably separates the two. I tell people all the time. You know, both regions can play. It's just that some of them put their helmets on for a different reason.
That's right.
I think that's a good point. But I also think that, you know, we're going on 40 years now, you know. We're in 8th grade, you know, 40 years ago, we're in 8th grade. And I think the kids up here, quite frankly, are tired of hearing of that 757 mystique, but they don't understand how much of a different world it is down there. And they're exposed to a lot of options what they can do with their lives as opposed to down there. And it doesn't hurt that you've got a disproportionate amount of superstars that have come from the 757. Let me ask both of you guys this stuff. Top to bottom, Northern Virginia, which is way bigger than Hampton Roads, Tidewater. But top to bottom, I feel Hampton Roads 757 is top heavy with the stars. But I feel top to bottom, it's right there. How do y'all feel about that? What about you, Coach Powell?
Are you talking teams or players?
Overall, just the quality, teams and players, just the quality of football. I don't think the delta is as big as it used to be, especially in Division 5.
No, the gap has definitely been closed. First thing is that it used to be a time probably less than 10 years ago that, these teams, North Virginia, were Tidewater teams, that's who they got to play to get there. And it was just like, like Stonebridge lost, I can't remember how many in a row to 757. Holland Spring, now the 804 got it going. They used to be horrible. You know what I mean?
They did. That's right.
And now you got to bring your A game. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to play politics right quick. The whole state has gotten better. Period.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a great point that you bring up, because if you look back into the 90s, Jeremiah, that was right before you came out. Virginia was only putting out 20 to 25 D1, not Power 5, 20 to 25 D1 players. And now you've got probably 50 coming out that are D1. And you've got Power 5 guys ranked 35, 36, 37. Independence High School here in Ashburn, not far from Loudoun County where you're coaching, they sent a kid to Florida State, and you never heard of that back in the day. So yeah, I believe Virginia has grown quite a bit. And the private school, I just took a peek at one of the ranking services, and they're different, but one of them only had one 757 player in the top 10 for 2023. And there were more Northern Virginia kids. The kid at Fairfax, which I wanted to get back to what we're talking about, I think his name is Tony Rojas. He's a linebacker, and he looks really good. But I keep hearing about, I keep hearing about Fairfax. They must be a sleeper team, because I hear Fairfax is going to be very good.
Well, I'll say this: it doesn't look like they're a sleeper, because last year they went 9-2. So they're not sleeping. They're just not. But when you also look at Lake Braddock, Robinson, and South County, of those teams, you're not thinking Fairfax, but they got ballers.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, man, and he knew when he went there. Trey Taylor left South Lakes. Previously was at Robinson, coached South County also. He brings a lot of experience, and he knew what he was getting into. But you take a guy that guy was rolling in Clemson offers, Georgia. This is a legit dude. And their last guy was Nick Scott, also a Penn Stater, also Super Bowl. Yeah. Just want to throw that plug in for those guys right there. But like he said, like Rusty said, Fairfax was 9-1 at the end of the football season last year. They ran into a West Potomac team that that was well coached and was ready to play. But and it was an upset in the playoff when that happened. But they got guys, and so to kind of blend in what we're both talking about is right. It's like you got coaching, and then you take some Jimmys and Joes. And so Dick Adams, longtime coach in Annandale High School, and he's our coach. He said it takes 3 things to win a state championship. You won 2 back-to-back. You got to have good coaching. You got a great staff that works together well, that understands how to prepare a team. You got to have guys. And when I mean guys, you gotta have offensive linemen that can block. You have somebody that can go the distance, and you have somebody in the back after that if a mistake happens, they can make up for it, right? And then you gotta have some luck. You gotta stay away from the injuries. Your key guys gotta be, you know what I'm saying? You gotta have the ball's gotta bounce your way, and those things gotta happen, right? And so saying that, right, like a lot of what's happened in the state now, because before you had some coaches that would move from Tidewater area and come up here and coach for a better job. You know what I mean? For more money, they could make a better living
money,
in their family. And now,
Mike Spellman did that,
right? And as the state now aligns with that, now it's starting to come, it's starting to get more uniform. Now, what I'll say though is that the VHSL, and they will correct it, is starting to get top heavy for divisions. So in Division 6, you got to think 80% of the division is above Prince William and North. You know what I mean? So you go down south. So it might look top heavy, but there might only be 8 schools. You know what I mean? That are competing, and you take out Franklin County, and so you only got but so many. Now then you go to Division 5, and it gets medium heavy in Northern Virginia, heavy in the central part of the state, and then medium again when you get in the south. Then you go to Division 4, and then it gets heavy in the south and light in the north, and you start talking about Loudoun and out in Harrisonburg, and so you know how it's getting regionalized in the state. It has a lot to do with what's going on.
And the VHSL has rigged it so they don't rotate it. There's going to always be a Fairfax team in the state finals. I mean, you just need a chance, And so that's a whole nother show, guys. But
that's political, though. That's political, man.
Because I go back to what happened in basketball. It went like 25 years between a Northern Virginia team winning the state championship, and I think it was the last one had been like Lee, and then TC beat Bethel, and won the next one, and that was over a 20-some year, 25, 27 year period. So I saw how they were, and I've been associated with the VHSL and coaching, refereeing for close to 30 years, and I saw this, and I'm like, oh, I see how they're doing it, But I'm not going to take away from Northern Virginia, but I'll say this: the other thing I think that is substantial is this, facilities wise, and guys, I love where I'm from, but you've heard me harp on this. My son has played Northern Virginia football, ever since youth football, but he never played on grass field. He's played on turf field.
He's never touched the grass field. Never touched one. Never touched
the grass field. Okay. And Darla Stadium is hosting 4 high schools, okay, and football, soccer, all the other little stuff they're doing in one stadium. In one stadium, Darla Stadium, and it's grass. And I posted something yesterday on Facebook saying this is what Darla Stadium looked like halfway through the year. And I don't understand how you expect your teams to keep up at the pace of what we were doing, for a good 30, 40-year run if you're not providing the facilities. And when I say not just Darla Stadium, I'm talking about they need a turf field at the practice field. You don't need to have a bad day. You miss practice because Bethel's field's it's the same field and track from when I was there. But they open the schools in Fairfax have 2 turf fields.
I know, but
a lot of them, not all of them. But hold on. The other thing that comes up here is not just the turf fields facilities, but the access to personal trainers and people getting that specialization and working on things. Now, it's down there too.
It is down there.
Training down there too. But what I'm saying is where they close the gap is, we were playing. I was playing football, running track, and do indoor whatever. That was my training year round. Whereas now that kid, he's got a trainer outside of the season. So anyway, that's just some of my thoughts on it. But you guys can chime in.
I want to make one point though. Fairfax County, Arlington County, and Loudoun County, not this year, but last year, were 3 of the top 5 wealthiest counties. And a high tide raises all boats. So you're at Wakefield. Wakefield is a beautiful school they've redone. I've been to that facility.
Yeah.
And by the way, we laugh, but up here, Bailey's Crossroad, that area, that's considered, man, that's nice compared to a lot of places at home. But you come out here to Loudoun County, I don't know, it's like 5 years ago, the median income, not average, the median. That means if you take all the incomes, the one in the middle is like 145. All right. So these people making $1 million and $2 million and $3 million, well, they're paying taxes, and that's who's paying for those turf fields and lights and 6 uniforms and things like that. But I will tell you, when we had Coach Red on from the Colt Boys, he talked about the fact that the kids down there are playing with a chip on their shoulder. And, I don't want to talk too much about the differences, but I did want to get into, we're talking about the district. So Fairfax is not a sleeper. I know Robinson is looking to be pretty good. And Robinson's always been, a very good, solid football program.
Robinson was the #1 seed last season.
Yeah.
And they got, and they have the younger brother, the young man that's down at Clemson. Well, they had him before, and then they moved down there with them. But they have it going on. The defense, they've restructured the staff a little bit. They were a wing T team through and through. And then, they kind of adapted. But they're, as times have changed, and I really think everything is circular, and it goes on a 10-year pattern. I did a little research when I was in that head coach world, or where you want to go. But, it goes, people move in patterns, and the pattern's coming back to Central Fairfax. And as you look at that team, like that Robinson team, they had a lot of juniors on that squad. And so they're going to come back, they play man defense, they're going to bring it on, and then they're going to take the clock away from you and just pound you. And so between them and Lake Braddock, who has a different style of play that quarterback heavy. And the crazy thing about it is they had like almost 3 Division I quarterbacks.
Yep.
They had a cat that's down at Wake Forest right now, and then they have the guy,
Amy Kaiser, who
played Maryland basketball, who was a guy. I remember when he's a freshman, we're playing JV, and he's lighting us up, all right, dunking on people, And then they have the guy that they have now, and it's like, where do you go? You know what I mean? And so then you throw in, like you say, like an Alexandria City, who a coach come from around the area, uniting the school. And Coach Powell will touch on it. He's been there twice. They just needed somebody to bring the group together. They've always been the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
They really have. They really have had that group of kids that was always there, but you needed to bring a demographic back to it. People get a view of Alexandria City, and there's a large Hispanic population. There's a good group of white kids that are there. And you get this, this black school over here, like, no. Once they're one of the largest schools, and when they get all their kids out, and when they get them on a boat, and when that bus start rocking as it's coming over to your school, you know what I mean? Like, because I remember when Alexandria, former TC Williams, used to pull up on a city bus because they couldn't get because the timing was wrong, and they come over there with that same attitude that we're talking about from the Tidewater area, and once that train gets rolling, don't nobody from Potomac to the Chesapeake Bay really want to play them. So I'm a strong believer in the advocate for those guys.
Oh yeah. Now, Coach Powell, this is your district. You don't have to make a prediction since it might not be fair to your team. So we'll let you sit this one out, because your answer would probably be Alexandria City to win that one. So you don't have to. We don't want you to catch any flack on that. But Coach Davis, who do you think will come out of this as the top? Now, a few teams will make the playoffs. Who do you think is going to be the top?
You knew me too long. See, I knew that. See, I took that off his plate because I'm going to get a text message after this. You know what I mean? I took that off his plate. But really, Thank you. I'm really. So I'm telling you, you got Robinson, you got Lake Braddock, you got Fairfax, you got South County, Alexandria City, Justice, who's coming up, West Potomac, and West Springfield. That's how it lays out in the district. That's how it was last year. That's how it'll be going into this season. That's what I believe. And again, if you look at the first round playoff scores, Robinson beat Alexandria City 52-13, Braddock over Justice 44-19, 28-37. That was the West Potomac game that they upset Fairfax, and then 16-13 was the 4-5 matchup between South County and West Springfield. And I think that's very telling. And again, if you look at trends over the years, it'll be like that, but it'll flop. You know what I mean? So when you get into that 3 versus 6 game where it gets fuzzy, you know what I mean? Or that 4 versus 5 game, you don't want to be in those.
Right.
You don't want
right. That's right.
In that situation with us playing Westfield last year, it's like, man, we got to play Westfield. And they had a great season. It's like, oh man, you get into a game where it's somebody that might have lost or had some injuries or something. So I think that district is going to close the gap. I still think you got Lake Braddock and Robinson at the top of the group.
Lake Braddock. And what about West Potomac? I mean, I know you both have been a part of that, because through the years, they've really put out a lot of good football players. I mean, what's going on in West Potomac?
Coach Louisville, he's doing a great job. Last year was his first year. I think he came out the gate and went 6-4, right?
Yep.
Good young guy. He used to be a defensive coordinator with me back when I was at TC. And he was with Westfield when they won one of their state titles as a defensive position guy. He didn't pay his dues. The kids love him. You know, he's just a real people person. Kids want to play for him. You know, we always say he got that urban suburban thing. He got the big boys up front, and then he got the skilled guys. They're gonna be solid. You know, and Coach Louisville a real defensive specialist. You know, he'll bring 11 from, you know, every time. He's gonna bring people from all over the place. So if you're not a team that's finessing, can't adjust to that pressure, you're gonna have a problem with West Potomac. Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's not the same old Patriot district, because it doesn't include, like back in the day, it had Annandale, it had Hayfield, and they're not in there. And it was like Mount Vernon back in the day. Was Mount Vernon ever in the Patriot?
No, I think they were. I think they were.
They were for a year.
Okay, that's right. But I will say the Patriot district has been a strong district in football over the years too.
Yeah,
very strong. I mean, you look. We know Robinson, especially in the early 2000s, Mike Emo, and then they're back at it again. But Robinson, I mean, Lake Braddock has had a really good run over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
South County won the state championship. So, and then West Po won the state championship. So that again, and we know TC has got a couple. So again, that's to me the second overall traditionally, and more lately has been the next best district. Yeah. Let's go to the next. What is the district called with Yorktown, Wakefield, and Marshall?
Liberty.
The Liberty. There we go. The Liberty district. That's right. Who wants to take a stab at that? How about you, Coach Powell?
Yeah, I was in that district for years, so it's always Yorktown, man.
Yep.
Always Yorktown won. They're almost like a Fairfax school where they're not gonna make a lot of mistakes, you know. And then along comes, you know, a high level D1 guy that they sprinkle in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mike Jeter back in the day.
But Mike Jeter kids are like D1 kids now.
Yeah.
Loudoun.
Oh yeah.
And then
I watched some scrimmage the other day. Yeah.
Who was the kid they had a few years ago that went to Carolina? Now he's in the league.
Oh,
man, Yorktown.
Who was that? I know you're talking about Rusty.
Yeah, he in the league now.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll get it before the show's over. But yeah.
He made me leave Wakefield because he was man. They would kneel on the ball, trying not to.
MJ Stewart.
Yeah, MJ Stewart. True story.
MJ Stewart.
Bruce Hanson been in Yorktown for like 40 years, and so, you know, they were beating us so bad. It was my nephew was my quarterback a year prior to that, and then he's gone on to play in the arena, CFL. Like, he was all we had. And so the year after he left, they were beating us so bad, he started kneeling the ball second quarter. True story.
Whoa.
So, you know, I'm a Tidewater guy. You know how I do. I called him on the cell phone, and I said, "You kneel that ball one more time." I said, "I'm going to see you in the locker room." I said, "I don't care what the score is. You're not doing us any favors by kneeling the ball. They got to be meant." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They chose not to do anything off season. They chose not to hit the weight room, chose not to show up to 7-on-7. So now we got to pay the piper, and I'm sitting here at the head of the table, but don't kneel that ball no more, you know?
Yeah.
And, but Stewart was, listen, I've been around a long time. I've been able to identify about 5 or 6 professional football players, you know, when they in high school. He was definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That kid could call in a heartbeat. And great kid too, you know, him and his dad, good family.
Yeah, and you know, Jeremiah, you're familiar with that district as well, being a head coach in that district. Outside of Yorktown, I know Marshall had its time with their up or down, you know, and I think last year, you know,
500.
They were better.
About 500, yeah, they were 500. Yeah. Anybody else that this year that may surprise us from coming from that district?
Well, you know, when that district was so before, when I was at Herndon, we used to be in Concord or Westfield. And it's like
yeah,
right. You
get man.
That's a natural fit.
Low man on the pole, and then we switched over, right? And so we came into there with the Arlington schools and really what aligns to be some of the Falls Church schools too. You get, but you're gonna get the one team out of that district that makes the playoffs, and it's by how it's scheduled, and it's just competitiveness, and it's just you can get one team and then they're gonna get they might get two, but they're gonna get one team in the playoffs, and Marshall's gonna be the one that that's going to give them, they're going to give them rough on money. They did a good job. Jason's over there, Jason Strickland. He does a good job with his guys and got a good staff. Really, they have a good draw of kids when you think about it. I mean, they're drawn from the backside of really what are Madison's kids. Some of Vienna is coming there. They have that top side of Falls Church. And they got a real good, they got a big group of kids that they go there. He does a good job just playing that tough, hard-nosed football. But it's really tough to beat Bruce. And he has been doing it so long. And again, we played him in the playoffs 3 years, I think, when I was at Westfield, we played him. And, like he says, he's going to get a kid. And they're going to get the best kid from the youth league in Arlington. And they're going, and I don't know how he always goes to Yorktown. How does he always get there? how does he live off of, 4 Mile Run? But he's going
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, they're the cream of the crop in that district. What it is though, can they get to a point where there's some competition? A new coach is coming out there at McLean High School, coming from Heritage, and he's getting, he's trying to get it right with those guys over there. New coach, it's the second or third year over at Herndon High School, and they're running some option football. So they're trying to make the best, option for those kids, in that district. But like I said, you're gonna get one. It's gonna get in the playoffs and can make some rumbling with it. But it's hard to go against Yorktown.
Yeah. Okay. And we have one district remaining, and this is the district. What is that district called? It's a newer type district. What is this? This is the one that has Lewis, Annandale,
Edison, Falls Church, Hayfield,
right.
Jefferson.
That's right.
Justice, Lewis, and Mount Vernon.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's your wheelhouse, Jeremiah. Probably both of your wheelhouses.
It's both of our stomping grounds, right?
That's both of y'all.
Yeah.
Edison.
I got Mount Vernon and Hayfield at the top of the heap.
Okay.
But not to say that Justice might be there again. You know what I mean? But the thing about Justice, what I saw, like we beat them last year when it was at Mount Vernon, and they were loaded. But it took them the fourth quarter to wake up to realize that they could beat us, and we eased on out of there with the clock. And then so the season goes on. Me and Coach Aziz are good friends at Hayfield. He calls me and says, "Hey, what's up with Justice?" I said, "You better bring your A game," and they beat them. I mean, they beat them, and it was everybody was shocked. So our kids in Mount Vernon think, and like the kids say today, they think it's sweet. So we go over to Hayfield a week later, like, hey, we beat Stewart, y'all lost to them, and they killed us. So it was a 3-way split for the championship. It was Justice, Mount Vernon, and Hayfield won the conference, but Justice went 6-4 because they beat somebody non-conference. Now, I'll be honest with you, Lewis is struggling, to say the least.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that type of struggle before.
What are you talking about? Numbers?
Talent, numbers, great coaching staff. I know all the coaches over there. Guys been around a while. But somehow, man, you know how the thing goes around with the 1-9 0-10 bug. Well, it's on them right now because they're in a deep hole, man. Like they look like, honestly, no disrespect, they look like a good JV.
Man, but you know what? That's happening around here, man. Manassas Park.
Yeah.
They couldn't even fill. They tried. They couldn't even fill the team. The most they had in their first week of practice was 17. But sometimes they had 11 players at practice. And back home, man. I mean, Denby has struggled like that.
Denby's almost, That's hard to believe.
Yeah, and let me say, I think I can't speak as much down home, but up here, I will say the dynamics from a lot of the schools have changed in terms of the demographics, or with the population. So if you have a larger Latino population, I've seen football lose athletes, but I've seen soccer programs grow. So in some ways, because Hilton High School, great traditional powerhouse, like for years, my kid, that was our zone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they built Colgan, but they also do some funny line squiggles around where they're going to rezone stuff. So I know that happens in every district, but what happened is Hilton football is really taking a drop, but the soccer program won a state championship 2 years ago. So I'm not necessarily, and I know Lee has been affected by that in some ways, but hopefully they can find the right mix of coaches and kids to turn that around.
Well, I think that as demographics change, we have to account for that. So you're looking at like Manassas Park that you brought up. There's 67% Hispanic.
Right.
7. That's a large. I mean, that's your school. You know what I mean? There's 60%. Yep. 67%. Looking at Lewis, 46% in Fairfax County. And so, it's one of the things that I was a huge advocate for. And just to put this out there for all the listeners and all the viewers of this, right? So you understand that when we say this, it's not on a racial line, but you're taking a kid whose parents are first or second generation Americans, right? They might not have insurance, or they view insurance differently. Their legal status might be in question. So when signing papers, when signing up for insurance for football, which is almost $200, not like soccer, which is $20, and there's 100% injury rate in football. When you're looking at those kind of different practice times, what happens if we start practice at 9 a.m.? I know at the school my kid is at, and I'm a 18-year coach, administrator, and have done this, and they start practice at 9 o'clock. I can't get my kid to practice. You got to be of a certain income level, living. To get your kid to practice at 9 a.m. or pick them up at 1.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could not do that for myself as a coach, as a parent. And so how do we make this equitable for all of our students? Right? You know what I mean? I'm putting on my administrator lens, but how do we make this equitable for all of our population, so that at a Wakefield High School, at a Lewis High School, at a Manassas Park, that although those kids have had less exposure to the sport, they have an opportunity to participate in it, right? And to grow in it, because they deserve those same opportunities as everyone else. And that takes a commitment from the community, but also from the school to make that happen.
Jeremiah, educate me on that insurance thing. Because when my son played football, I don't remember having to pay any money for insurance.
So you probably have your own private insurance paid to your employer, right? Rusty Byrd does, and Coach Powell, who works for Arlington County, has his own. I work for Fairfax County. We got our own insurance. But if I'm an hourly worker, right, at some establishment, I may not have insurance benefits through that, right? So you're able to purchase school insurance. Coach Powell knows very well about this. When you're filling out an emergency care card, there's a page 4 that's on that bad boy that needs a signature and all of that stuff. As we go through it, we've missed countless players. He's shaking his head because he knows. Any coach that'll listen to this knows that you got a guy. And page 4 ain't filled out on that thing, and he's standing right on that sideline with a helmet because he can't participate until that's filled out. You need insurance to participate in VHSL sports, and they offer it through the school, and there's different price levels for each sport. Again, 100% injury rate in football means there's a higher purchase rate for that insurance.
Hey,
thank you.
Yeah, true story. Let me piggyback on that. So my first year at Wakefield, I think we was like 3-7. We were beating Stewart pretty good. And the game got boiled like 50-0. So the team doctor says, "Hey, coach, how can I help you? I see you working hard." I said, "You know what I need? I need physicals." I say, everybody else in Fairfax got a physical day. We don't have a physical day. And so we installed that program. We went from 52 kids the first year to 98 in 1 year. And then, and then it became a fundraiser. Like everybody in Arlington County be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to Wakefield to get my physical." It became a big thing because we had a team doctor that he did it for free for us as a fundraiser. But that was a huge component that we were missing, and it made a huge difference. Yeah, and I mean, like you're talking about, I got hurt twice by kids that literally kind of, like Jeremiah said, just got to America. One night we playing our rivals, Washington Lee, and they kicked the ball off to us. And I had a kid on the front line. He jogged off the field. He had never played before. We lost 20-21 because he thought it was the same as punt.
Right.
He wasn't aware that you had to field it. So, you know, all the teammates yelling at him and coaches yelling at him like, hey, guys, that's our fault.
Right.
For assuming that he knew. You know what I mean? He's never played football before, and he's on a varsity field on a rival game, about 3,000 or 4,000 people yelling and screaming and, you know, yelling at him. So that's kind of the woes of Northern Virginia that you kind of, you know, you don't really see. And then you get a kid. Yeah. I had a kid that his mom finally let him play. He was like 6'4". He was in the band. He just basically told his mom, I'm not going home. I'm going to play. So he plays his junior year, he get acclimated. The next year, he's like all region. He gets an offer from Virginia State. I'm excited. I got a kid, you know, play D2 ball. And he started ducking me. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I finally go to his class and catch him. He said, Coach, I don't have a Social Security card in the world.
Man.
What? I never thought that type of, you know, I watch the news like everybody else. No, that don't fit me. I'm good, you know. Yeah. That really came home to like, I was hurting for that kid because he couldn't do anything and had a full scholarship, you know.
Yeah. So we had y'all on to talk about Norman, but y'all are educating our, and so first of all, I like to give myself a pat on the back because I have two of my dogs actually here kicking knowledge. So y'all got the credentials. Y'all didn't just break down X's and O's. Y'all told a story, and that is our. So we might have to have y'all on. I don't know y'all schedule, but we're gonna have to have y'all on a regular basis if schedule permits. That's some good info, man. We went there. We went there talking about facilities. We went there just talking about how things really are. Kirk, you can go ahead if you have one or two things left, but the last thing I'd like us to do is maybe highlight if there are any individual athletes or coaches that we missed out on. Maybe there's a new coach somewhere you want to give a shout out to you, or a veteran coach who's doing some great things, or some athletes. But Kirk, you can go ahead first.
Well, I'll do our plug. Please subscribe to us, the Kirk and Byrd Show. And the main platform is YouTube. I think we're a better visual podcast
because of his face.
Right. I've got a face for radio. He's got a face for television. But you know, it helps us out. You know, we have a blast doing this. Like I told you guys before we went on camera, our number one objective is for everybody to have fun. And I think we've already had fun here. But one of the things I was going to point out is the explosive growth in this area has changed things quite a bit. I remember the first time I heard Northern Virginia was wealthy was 1986, and I was in a government class in Hampton, Virginia, and my government teacher said, there's this place called Northern Virginia, there's a lot of money. I didn't know anything about Great Falls and McLean and things like that. But I'll tell you what's changed is the explosive growth. And with explosive growth comes lots of different diversity, lots of racial, cultural, economic. Like, for instance, Rusty, I would say in 2030, Prince William is going to be 1 million people, you know, and Fairfax County is probably going to get, you know, up. And in Loudoun County, we'll probably be 1 million people one day. And that brings in different types of people. So other parts of the state that think this is Beverly Hills 90210, it is not that case. There are plenty of working class people, uninsured people. And if they think it's all hourly workers, there are a lot of people that work very hard. I will give you an example. If you don't work for a major medical provider like Inova or something, like a doctor's office or something, I've had like physician's assistants give me a physical. We start talking about healthcare, and they don't have healthcare, you know, so that's a major thing. And there's struggles up here as this area grows. And our buddy, Darren Fullwood, who's helping put up the massive Amazon HQ2 is just going to make this area explode. That might be way over near DC and Crystal City, but it pushes everything further. You know, Richmond's talking about having 3 or 4 trains a day in the Union Station. But yeah, so let's go ahead and segue in to, you know, any individual athletes. Obviously, there's a lot of good ones up here. I mean, 2023, Penn State's got Alex Birchmeyer, Tony Rojas. They got, I mean, Isaiah, you know, but they're just crushing it up here, you know, in the whole Commonwealth.
Well, I think that it changed the landscape of recruiting when coaching staffs changed. They made a commitment to coming to Northern Virginia and getting people and highlighting those. Maryland's making a push in this area.
Maryland's doing well.
They want to, you know, and we touched on that on previous shows, man. That's the closest D1 Power 5 school. It's University of Maryland. And there's no reason that you just jump over them like a speed bump and then go right to Pennsylvania, you know, and that's my school right there.
Or your old coach Larry Johnson coming in here and getting Jason Moore from DeMatha, and like he got you at Penn State. Like, yes, that's happening.
They gotta get a hold back on the area. But as you're looking through it, you know, you got Tony Rojas from Fairfax. You got the quarterback from Oakland, from Braddock.
Right.
Yeah, you know, you got you got some guys around the area, and like you said, I think as far as just, you know, talent rich, it's going to the eastern part of the county, to those, you know, to Braddock, Alexandria City, Fairfax, Mount Vernon, South County area. They got some guys. You're looking at Region D. You know, over west, you know, again, we talked about Isaiah Ragnar from Centerville.
He's good.
You know, the running back from Marshall was putting up some, you know, some great numbers for them last year. You know, you got some guys in this area that are making a name for themselves, and I think as people, you know, start to expand, as the recruiting areas start to expand, as the internet starts to expand, people start promoting themselves. You'll see some of these names pop off the map.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd also like to give a shout out to my man Jordan Dennis, the quarterback for South County. I coached him at APYFL and we won a championship. But he passed for over 3,000 yards last year and close to 50 touchdowns.
So can I ask a question? No shade. Well, how'd you coach him and he go to South County though? No shade being thrown, but you know what I'm saying? I like the coach who go to my, you know, live in my area. I'm just gonna say
I know. Let me tell you.
But it's different now, man.
A number of reasons. I can tell you a number of reasons. You know, his family made a decision that it was in their interest to buy even bigger house.
I'm with that. As long as you buy, you move into the area. I'm with it.
Yeah.
Over there, something. You buy somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Rusty,
right. Hey, wait a minute. That's a whole nother show, guys. But we're gonna have to talk about
transfer,
youth football, transfers, you know, recruiting. And we know with the private schools. I know you're dealing with that, Coach Powell.
Episcopal.
Well, Alexandria has Bishop Arts and St. Stephen's, St. Axe. They got
we get plucked a lot. We probably could build a whole starting 11 of guys that should be at Alexandria High School that they've coming back, you know.
Yeah.
What if I told you this, man? What if I told you in Leesburg right now, there's probably 5 kids at WCAC schools that should be at Loudoun County High School.
Oh yeah, the starting center.
This is one school. We're not talking all Loudoun County.
Oh no, the starting center for Virginia Tech went to Gonzaga, and he lives in Loudoun County. He doesn't live in Ashburn. That's another 20 minutes. Johnny Jordan, great family, by the way. His sister Sarah is on our show. She's a great volleyball player. He went to Gonzaga. I mean, you're not talking about who was the Stanford quarterback that lived in McLean. I forgot his name. He had a shot in the pros. He was with the Commanders Redskins. But that's a little bit more understandable, you know.
But Again, that's another show, guys. Because
Right.
and I'm guilty. I'm one of those parents. You know, I sent my son to Bishop Ireton because I wanted to play fair. I wanted him to play for Westfield, and but I couldn't do it. I couldn't get an address. I'm just joking.
I have one last question, and let's go ahead and wrap up. Can any team from above honestly, any team outside of the 757 challenge Oscar Smith?
You speaking statewide?
Anybody? Any in six?
I
think Holland Springs should year in and year out.
But they're 5. I'm talking about this year, just this year.
I don't know. I don't know, because my buddy Randy Pearson tells me, and I hear a lot of people tell me that Oscar Smith pre-game show is enough to make teams go back in the locker room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I talked this. I won't say it was Randy that said this, but I've heard, they did lose some ball. They have players, so they're going to have to restart and get, their offensive line is massive and it's incredible, but they did lose. I mean, they lost several Division I athletes. Yeah. And I'll say this, Oscar Smith is talking a lot of this, but I remember there was 3 years in a row when Westfield beat them. And so I'm a firm believer that these teams, look, I tell you right now, I have no problem saying Centerville can beat Oscar Smith. I know the season's got to play out, but I've told people, like, you cannot just assume that this team's gonna beat that team, because I told Jeremiah last year, like, who saw Madison doing that? They beat some great teams to get to where they were, but they're well coached. They're not gonna make any mistakes. And so when you get those factors there, yes, I think Oscar Smith can definitely take an L. They might take one to Phoebus.
I think they're more likely to take one to Phoebus from a team up here. So I think they reload. I mean, they're stacked with talent. I mean, I'm not trying to, like what you said, there's kids going to school all over the place, and that was going on, Keith, back in the day, it just wasn't as open. You had to hide in somebody's car trunk to drive.
But the difference is this.
It's legal.
Up here, we lose our kids to private schools. Down there, they lose their kids to Oscar Smith and Phoebus and Hampton back in the day. Keith, I got to check your address, man.
Cut it out, man. Everybody from Share Road, man. Come on.
Hey, so just to be fair to Keith, right? When you're the front runner, and I didn't find this out until I was at Westfield High School, everybody is coming and taking shots for the front runner. And forever, Hampton High School with the most state titles will reign supreme, and they will always take shots. Now, y'all talking about the 80s. My guy, I was born in 82. I was 3 when y'all was, what I'm saying? Y'all was out there having homecoming dates, and I was still on the bottom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'll say this, and to answer the question, and we close out, like, on any given Friday night, it could go a different way. You got to look at the rankings from last year. Was Oscar Smith obviously at the top, Madison right beneath that. The number 3 team was Battlefield. You know what I mean? They were 13-1. They were undefeated. They were rolling. Brand new coach, new staff, out in Prince William.
Patriots gonna be tough.
Patriots going to be tough. Freedom's always in the mix. You know what I mean? Like they got a thing going on over there, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Freedom doing a good job.
You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, hold on. I went to Freedom DeMatha on Friday.
Yeah,
and it was a stalemate, bro.
What?
It was a stalemate. Yes,
that's
DeMatha.
That's
actually Freedom scored when they went to games. When they went just one, nobody scored. They bounced. When they went to game situation, Freedom ran it down their throat and scored. Yeah. And then DeMatha just sitting around looking. And then DeMatha finally scored when they said, we're going to just run. But they both 7-7. 7-7. So if Freedom's doing that with DeMatha.
So, Rusty, no knock. So when I first got up here, I always heard DeMatha this, DeMatha that, And I tell the dude, I live with him in Maryland. I don't care. I give him the business. I tell them, Maryland, y'all can't touch us. And I also tell them that if DeMatha had to play Oscar Smith, Phoebus, Hampton, Indian River, Lake, if they had to play all them schools night after night, in and out, you never hear about them. But
I don't know about that, man. What about St. John's, Our Lady of Good Counsel?
They okay.
Bishop McNamara.
They okay. They okay, Kirk. But I mean, like
Gonzaga.
I mean, those guys. What those guys do is that they get good players, right?
Right.
You're talking about the Tidewater area, and we all know this to be true. That left tackle, he ain't gonna never play football again. But ain't nobody can block him. And that dude might be on his way to a tough life, but ain't nobody can block that dude. So,
yep.
And, you know what I mean? In the private schools, 95% of those kids, they already early admissions, and they get in front of that dude that's on his way to a different life. I done seen them not come out of the locker room before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We've talked about that, Rusty. You and I together have talked about some of the way the kids are brought up here, and then there's a kid whose livelihood is dependent on football. I mean, that's the only thing that they really know, which is a shame, but that's where you get the dogs. And I would say this, top to bottom, like Hampton had a lot of great players, but top to bottom, Hampton had a lot of really good, solid, maybe like a 5'8", 225-pound lineman, which a lot of people joke at because these kids are so big now, but those guys were players. They were either Division III, top to bottom. I think that's where Hampton Roads differs, top to bottom, even though numbers up here.
I'm going to say this. Now, two things. The reason I was telling my son, I look at his team, he left Bishop out, he's back at Colgan, and they may have some guys that can play in college. But I tell people, I was joking with some guys I used to coach with, and I said, I think I look back, I didn't play college, I said, but I had to be a pretty good football player to step on the field and play in that Hampton-Bethel game when I'm looking on that field and there was Linwood Lumpkins, Keith Powell, Leslie Bailey, Craig Overton, Curly Miles. I mean, come on, man. And then I'm on a team, as a 10th grader, I'm on a team.
Will Jeter, Randy Pearson, man, they were loaded.
And I'm saying
Sherwood.
Dee Van, Creighton Icomenius, Mickey Icomenius. I'm Rodney Howard, Terrell Britt, Carl Barkers, Curtis Pont, William Beverly, Carl Francis, Jason Wallace. That was on one field in fall of '84. And so I said, look, if I got on the field, man, come on. Like, the kids here just don't know. And you talk about private schools, the math in it, we won't even do the best players from the city of Hampton. Let's just do this. All right, we're going to make one team out of Kickertan Phoebus and one team out of Hampton-Bethel. I mean, nobody would stop those teams. And that's what Richmond Public Schools had to do for you.
But that
Jefferson did not win.
That was yesteryear, and younger people are tired of hearing that. Kind of like,
Kurt, let me say this, though. This is the one thing that I dealt with when I moved up here and I'm done that used to really make me mad. Northern Virginia kids, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to put it on the table, they can do whatever they want with it. A lot of Northern Virginia kids don't know no better, and they think they're better than what they are. That is a problem, because the competition.
It ain't just the kids, by the way.
Oh, of course they're
apple doesn't fall far from the tree, bro. Yeah.
And you're so right, Keith. We'll wrap it up with this, but I'll say this: we have so many kids I've seen leave this area, be considered 4 and 5 stars, and go down to the SEC. And you're not just talking about kids that like from even 7-5 state. You talk about kids that might not have indoor plumbing. They might not have an indoor toilet, bro.
Yeah.
Coming from Mississippi, somewhere in Louisiana or Alabama, and they up in that state. They won't know stars, but somebody recruited them to LSU or Alabama, and our guys got to go up against them, and it's a whole other thing. Because again, our guys always played on turf, and our guys had Gatorade, and those guys were still drinking out the spigot. So anyway, man, this has been such a pleasure. We got to get y'all back on. And Jeremiah, we'll definitely get a Division 5 Loudoun County overview, because when we talk about Stonebridge and Tuscarora and Loudoun County and Heritage, what they're doing now. Broad Run. What is Independence? Independence,
Loudoun County, Heritage made the playoffs last year, I believe. Football's gotten really good out here. But just to let everybody know, we got Coach Blunt for Phoebus lined up. We got Kempsville's coach lined up. We got Rashad Cook from Western Branch lined up. We are working on a Richmond school. I don't want to say it in case we don't get them. And we're going to have an overview of the 804, 757, and Southwest Virginia. I just found out we got maybe Elton Tolliver, UVA guy at Lord Botetourt. So what we're going to try to do is keep putting out episodes until hopefully the end of next week. Rusty's working the end of the fiscal year with the government, and then try to do some more college stuff. But everybody's talking about college. Not that many people talk about football, especially knowledgeable. So we'll be coming out with some more stuff. So make sure you subscribe, because when you subscribe, you get a little like your church, Rusty. I subscribe to your church 8:15 on Sunday morning. I get a little bell, 8:15 service, right? So those are the things that you get. And we don't put out a lot of videos. We're not these young cats that put out 20 a day. You're going to get maybe 1, 2, or 3 a week. And some will be of interest and some won't. So, so we'll be coming out with more. We're going to be releasing more. And Jeremiah, like I said, and Keith, we'll definitely both have you on. But Jeremiah's was our second episode, and that is a really good episode, and we've got a lot more momentum now. So any of you Penn Staters, any of Annandale, any of you Westfield people, any of you Loudoun County people want to learn a little bit more about Jeremiah and his journey, he has some really good stories to tell. And again, Coach Powell, the Coach Smith interview with which is episode 44.
I saw it. It was great.
Was a lot of fun. Coach Smith is a storyteller, man, and I'm gonna tell you, he probably remembers the third string kicker from 1975. He just that way. He remembers everybody. He loves to tell stories. Good guy. So, anything you want to close out with, Rusty?
No, I'm just gonna close with this, man. You guys have really blessed us in our audience. If you can help promote it, but we're going to do this. We have a competition between all our coaches. So to see what coach can get the most views, let's see what region gets the most views. So we just put out Prince William County today. We'll be releasing this. Let's see if this can get the most views of our preview of high school football when you talk about the 4 major regions or 5 regions with Central Virginia and Southwest. But you guys have been great. Thank you. And the last thing I just thought about is 3 of the guys here played for legendary coaches. Dick Adams, Mike Smith, Dennis Kozlowski. What is it between them? Probably 18 state champions. No, Coach.
More than that.
You got
14 for Hampton.
How many did Coach Smith specifically? Coach
14.
Smith, 12.
He won 14.
I think.
He won 14.
Okay.
Okay.
They won 3 before him.
Coach Adams had 2, right? And Coach Cos had 3. So, man, we have been blessed to be around some tremendous coaches. And now in Kirk's high school has won 8 football state championships with 3 different coaches. So we know a little bit and love this game of football. So thanks again, guys. I want to thank you, Coach Powell, Coach Davis, and Kirk Hilliard. Next time, don't talk so much. All right, this has been Kirk and Byrd, and we are out.
All right, y'all take it easy.
Take care.
All right.